welcome here to the 15th floor of the International Affairs Building and today's conference, 5 Years of War in the Donbas, Cultural Responses and Reverberations. My name is Alex COOLEY, and I have the great pleasure and privilege of being the current director of the Harriman Institute here at Columbia University. And on behalf of the Ukrainian Studies program and the entire Institute, welcome to this important and distinguished gathering. And just wanted to say a few words from the perspective of the Institute of why events like this are so important to us. 5 years of war has also signaled, I think, a profound transformation in the Institute's own reflections and perspective about what its role is in fostering knowledge about what's happening in Ukraine and in broader terms of the region. We often conduct or host events that focus on the high geopolitics of the Ukraine conflict and what it means for the US and Russia and the EU and Ukraine itself. But we're really grateful to have such a community of wonderful scholars to be able to really try and drill down on what war has meant in terms of local conditions and the reverberations, as today's topic is. So that local perspective is exceedingly important to us, and it's a reminder that this conflict operates on many levels throughout the region. Just the second point I would make is that this is truly an impressive interdisciplinary and cross-professional gathering that we have here of distinguished academics, curators, commentators, filmmakers, cultural critics. And again, I think this cross-disciplinary and cross-professional gathering is one thing that the Ukrainian Studies program and the Harriman Institute has really tried to focus on, bringing many different perspectives to bear on these types of issues. And then just finally, I think the transnational dimension of today's gathering is really important. Not only have you come from far, some of you from very far, and we're grateful and we appreciate it. And there's caffeine in the back, if that helps. But also in terms of our own community here, I'm grateful to a Ukrainian museum for their partnership. It's wonderful to be able to do these types of events and connect and strengthen our network. So without further ado, welcome. I wish you a productive and engaging conference. And now I do want to invite Marko, who is the leader of the Ukrainian Studies program, and so much of the intellectual drive behind everything that we do here is a result of his best efforts. So welcome.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you to all the participants for agreeing to come and participate in this conference, and also to all of you who came. And I hope you will be part of the wider discussion of some of the topics we'll be addressing. I just have a few words before we get to our first panel. As we know, the presence of Ukraine in US media has remarkably skyrocketed in the past couple months. It's often mentioned in the context of quid pro quo and terms like impeachment, and how this is somehow all tied together with Ukraine's need for some kind of military aid. And it is in this manner, in this secondary fashion, that the world is gently reminded that there is a war taking place in the Donbas between Ukraine and Russia. In fact, this war has been going on for over 5 years, has led to an estimated 13,000 deaths and displacement of about 1.5 million people. For the past 5 years, war has essentially saturated life in Ukraine. And Ukraine's culture has been profoundly affected by the war. The subject of war has consumed many of Ukraine's leading cultural figures. A good share of the most interesting artistic works of the past 5 years have focused on war. And the cultural responses have been dynamic, and they have been diverse. For the next 2 days, scholars who have assembled here, like Alex mentioned, here at Columbia from various corners of the world, will be providing their analyses of this cultural phenomenon. During our conference, we will focus on literature, film, visual art, and music, because the subject of war has greatly affected all of these art forms. In fact, some individuals require multiple forms of art to express their musings about the war. And some artistic works are even able to engage unexpected senses. For example, Olaf Clemens and Alexander Klemenko wrote what I consider to be one of the best literary works about the war, his prose miniatures Lito a to. And then he also engaged in a different kind of writing. He wrote icons on ammunition boxes culled from the front lines of the war, on which he juxtaposes images of apostles and saints with the wood. And this wood still retains the smell of gunpowder, the smell of war. Hybrid warfare, hybrid artists, I guess. In some of the works under analysis at our conference, larger political realities are the focus, while sometimes the works offer a micro treatment, focusing on an individual trying to survive in a time of war. Issues of displacement, time, identity, and gender all become highlighted by the war and are seen from new perspectives, and they reverberate within this art. The concept of borderlands, so inherent in Ukraine's name, in its history, and in its culture, is once again the point of focus, this time in the form of checkpoints on the front lines of the Donbas war. For the next 2 days, we'll be discussing this Ukrainian culture here in New York City and in English. And there are already several Ukrainian literary works about the war that have been translated into English and published, such as the anthology of poetry Words for War, which you see at the end of the table. And Oksana Maksimchuk is one of the volume's editors and participating in a conference, and it'll be the subject of at least 2 panels at our conference. Also, Oleg Sentsov's Life Went On Anyway, translated by another one of our conference participants, William Blecker, sitting in the back, and was just published by Deep Vellum. Other books are in the works, such as Olena Jennings, who's present also, and Oksana Lutsishina's translation of Artem Chek's novel Point Zero, or my translation in progress of Vladimir Rafeenko's novel Mondegrin. Such publications will undoubtedly help us to teach this important cultural phenomenon here in universities in the West. Over the years, our Ukrainian Studies program has consistently offered a focus on contemporary Ukraine and its culture as part of a more general study of the country. We believe that having our students become familiar with and scrutinize today's Ukrainian culture provides them with access to crucial nuances that can help them understand the complexity that Ukraine is. And it's not surprising that we feature both literature and film, among other things, at this conference. And Ukrainian cultural reflections on the war in the Donbas will undoubtedly continue to be a major subject of research in Ukrainian studies in the future. So I'm happy to announce that I have been invited to guest edit a special upcoming issue of East-West Journal of Ukrainian Studies that will feature papers from this conference. Also, our conference is being filmed and will be available for viewing shortly on the Harriman Institute website. Our Ukrainian Studies program likes to conclude our conferences with a cultural event that's tied in with the theme of the conference. On that note, I'm thrilled to invite you to attend the opening of an exhibit by the fantastic Ukrainian artist Vladko Kaufman tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the Ukrainian Museum downtown. The exhibit, which is driven by the Donbas War, will be opening at 7, and we're very thankful to the museum for co-sponsoring this conference. So let's get to our discussion. I leave you in the more than capable hands of my colleague, Ron Meyer, who, by the way, also translated Oleg Sentsov, but his play Numbers for the PEN American Center. So thank you, and Ron, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mark.